Welcome to Bridge the Gap, a show where we aim to build a bridge of understanding between opposing views. Each episode you'll see our participants sit down to discuss some thought-provoking statements.
Fathers have become disposable.
If they disagree with the statement, they'll leave their seat and allow those that agree to explain themselves.
And when I have been pregnant with my children, when we were in the hospital, the experience for my husband was like, hello, I'm here.
Those that disagree then return and express themselves to the rest of the group.
Nobody can tell me that if I leave, it's not gonna make a difference, basically. That's what it feels like for it to be disposable.
Hopefully building a bridge of understanding. Let's see what happens.
An absent parent should always have the opportunity to be in their child's life.
Ooh, that's hard. I think I might stand up. I think I should also do it.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like you're the child's parent, and there's nothing, you can't change that. So no matter what, I know how I feel about my child. No matter how angry he will ever be at me, I'm his dad. So if I want to come and watch you play this sport, if I want to come, I might not be able to dictate what you do in your life. I can't say what school you should go to because I haven't been there. I can't say what you should eat and what that kind of stuff. But if I want to come to your graduation, I'm coming. You're my child, I made you. If I didn't see you for 21 years, for whatever reason it might be, and this is the day that I decided, you know what, I want to just see. I want to see what you've done. I want to hear your good things, or maybe I want to be there in your for a bad day, just for that one day. I feel like I always have that right to do so. And you can tell me to go away, and I might go. But if I feel like, as a parent, even if my dad left me for 21 years or for 50 years, whatever, if just one day he decided to come back and just have a word with me, I always keep that. I don't see why I would close that door to be like, I never want to see my father again, or I can't say never to something that big. Like,
It depends on who's limiting the access.
Yeah.
Who's the one limiting the access and the...
just absent, but because there's so many things that it could be.
I think a child needs stability first and foremost. So the in and out thing, that's I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
However, I think that every child deserves an explanation, and I think every child wants an explanation when somebody isn't in their life. So I think every child is deserving of that. But I think that person, that parent, they have to be accountable, and they have to be responsible, and they have to be healthy. Because, you know, again, you can be in a child's life, but if you're unhealthy, you have toxic traits, you might as well not be in that child's life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think every child is deserving of a parent that wants to take responsibility and accountability.
I was going to say, yeah, I just think definitely I think with a child that's like below maybe 16, maybe I think definitely the parent should, agree for the child to be around. But I do think the older they get, I think it should be the child's decision rather than the focus on the parent, because you don't know what the situation might be between the two. And you never know, that person might be toxic, but when they're with their child, they have the best days ever. But maybe those toxic traits happen outside the relationship that they have with their child. So I do think regardless, first and foremost, you should ask the child whether or not they want to see their dad. If they don't want to see their dad that day, then I don't really think, because the parent should be there. If the child doesn't want to see you that day, then they don't want to see you that day. But I think overall, definitely, the focus point should be on whether or not the child wants to, rather than if the parent will allow it. Yeah.
I'm even more like, if it's a child, like the way you're saying, if it's under 16, maybe I don't even think you should have a choice. The same way you have to go to school.
Yeah.
You have to see your dad, and as long as it's safe.
It's beneficial.
Yeah, as long as it's safe. It don't even have to be beneficial. If all your dad does is sit and watch cartoons for the day.
But that's emotionally, that's beneficial.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So then, so long as you're safe and it's fine, beneficial, it's not a choice. It's not, I don't like him, I don't want to see him. Even if you lived with your dad, you might not like your dad.
It's true.
So you have to, under 16, it's not something, and even if you're not with the father, you need a rest. You might just need a couple hours where you know that he's safe and you just want to chill out, and the first person you'll go to is the other dad. So let's say you and him are not on terms or whatever. So that's not a reason I could say we'll shut the door. Yeah. It might be a reason that it's more difficult to do so. Then after 16, that's when you can start saying, hold on, you're an adult. If you don't want to see this man, you don't have to see this man. So then it's your choice. But even then, circumstances change. Today you're 17. You just want to live your life and you don't know this man, so you don't want to chat to him.
Yeah. Or because your mum doesn't talk to him.
Yeah,
Do you
your
know what I
mum, so
mean?
you don't want to chat to him. At 25 now, you got 25, 30, you've got your own job. You're not as angry as him. You've it's not the same situation. So because situations change, I can't say you shut the door for life on somebody that, for whatever reason, especially when you grow up and you understand how your relationships are. Like, you lose relationships yourself. You know how, like, angry you can get, how toxic you can get. I think you were saying that something about your partner would say maybe your dad did want to something like that. Because as a man, you know how angry you can get at your partner. So just that relationship might be so cut that you can't even face the child no more. So if that's the reason, you should still be held responsible for abandoning maybe your child. So but you two can have that conversation maybe once and maybe never have that conversation again. But the doors, I can't close that door, me personally.
I think it's really important when a child's parent is absent or not in the home that the child is growing up in, that the parent who's the remaining parent keeps a neutral perspective of that person's parent, of the absentee parent. I think that the child should be able to formulate their ideas of that parent themselves and come to the conclusions themselves. And I think for me, I didn't want to see my dad because of what I saw and what I had been told as well. And it was more of a fear factor. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if you don't behave yourself, you're going to see your dad. I don't want to see that person. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it was, I think, in that time, if the other person, the other parent that has chosen to say, keeps neutral about the person's parent and how that parent is, so that the child can make a decision by themselves to know, I don't want to see that, and that's my choice. I think that would be very, very good. Yeah. Very hard.
You're a different person. Like, who I am to my partner is not
who I am.
It's a
100%.
completely different relationship, and it's hard to you assume that your enemies have no friends. But they do, they live good lives, so you can still have a good relationship with the child. And then, God knows, whatever inconsistencies you saw in him, the child might see in him as well. And just be like, I'm not going to chat to him for this reason and that.
Thank you, guys. We're going to have the disagrees come back in, please.
Perception-wise, I see it as it's purely circumstantial. You could be a father and you left when the child was born, and there was a lot of, let's say, domestic problems between you and the mother. Now, when it's domestic problems between you and the mother, I don't necessarily believe that you shouldn't be able to see the child, because that's between you and the mother, you know what I'm saying? But if you're in a situation where you're not necessarily equipped to be with that child, and you was never, let's say you wasn't a good mother or you wasn't a good father, you never provided financial support, emotional support, the child was never essentially a priority to you. Once the child grows up, I feel like if they if they understand that and that's how they see it, I feel like it's their choice to kind of bring you back into their life, because essentially everything they've built has been outside of you, and so it's unfair to just be like, oh, I'm here now. Personally. Yeah.
I think I didn't, I kind of messed up walking off. So I'm kind of like in between, if I'm honest, because I get that. I feel like everyone should have an opportunity or a chance to better themselves. And I do believe in people changing. And I also liked the fact that you guys mentioned about the fact that, how, a parent might be towards a child is different to how they would have been with their partner or ex-partner or whatever. So that is definitely a nice argument. Problem I think, with personal situations I've been in with my child's father, is you open up the door and it seems as though, people like to take the piss a bit. Do you see what I'm saying? Sorry if you're swearing. But I just find sometimes it's like, I feel like you should let the door be open a slight bit, see how things go. And I'm all for, as I said, second chances and stuff like that. But I feel like sometimes what happens is people manipulate that. So as I said, like I'm in between. I think it's really important for a child to have a relationship with any parent, and whether that be that it's when they're 10, 11, etc., etc. I think it's for that the main guardian to really kind of almost analyse the situation, analyse what's actually going on and whether it's actually suitable for the child. And if they don't believe it's suitable for the child, then after they're 18 onwards or 16 onwards, then that child make that decision. But I feel like the thing is with kids, they're very, they're not going to look at certain situations that an adult would. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think sometimes if it is definitely a toxic situation where the person is toxic, you do need to kind of understand that people can be very manipulative in certain situations and manipulate a child very easily.
Can you explain the manipulation, not going too deep in your situation, just to understand, like...
I'm not necessarily just talking about my situation, I'm just referencing,
I kind of get what you mean. So let's say every time you go to the dad's house, you come back with an opinion on something. So like, and that hurts you in your own house. So you'll be like, they could ask who's your mum seeing, who's been in your mum's house. Those kind of things happen to when like, those are the reasons people don't like taking their kids to their dads, because the dad might ask questions about you, will start saying stuff about you to the child, then you go back to your mum and you start insulting your mum, like, Mum, I heard you did this and you're not supposed to be doing this. Daddy says da-da-da-da-da about you.
Is that what you mean?
I think, in certain cases that could be, but I think you mentioned, I don't know, you said earlier about, how you had an opinion, a perspective about your dad, and that perspective wasn't your own actual perspective, it was more so on what other people were saying or what you might have heard. Yeah. Now, again, that's a form of, I don't like to say manipulation too much because it comes across negative, but you were swayed to a certain perspective on why you didn't want to see your dad because of other people's perspectives. Yeah. That wasn't on your own perspective, right?
Yeah. So it's the same thing. Some things I saw, so like the physical I saw, and then also my mum, like what my mum would say, that, your dad did this, and it's true because I saw him do this, if that makes sense. So it wasn't, she didn't need to keep
it wasn't
going
just
back
that you said
there.
that.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I think really my argument is that I'm swayed on both sides realistically, because I feel like it just depends on the person. I think
the character.
it depends on the person. I don't think it's to do with anything of like me saying no, I would never. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't say never until you're actually in the situation. And I would just say it's to do with the character of the person and really analysing the situation. And if it's a thing that you can open up a relationship with, the dad or the mum, because we haven't mentioned mums that have been absent, then that's great. Why not?
Okay.
You still steadfast that there's a point where you say no. What's the point where you will say you cannot see this child again?
So,
ever. I think that's
what
my issue.
What is this?
Like,
I'm not saying. All right. I'm not saying you can't see the child ever. As in like you can't see him ever. It's more so like a choice. So like, so if a child like as a child, so if an 8-year-old is like, I don't want to see my dad. Now an 8-year-old can't understand. You know what I mean, like why your dad's not there. He can't tell you. But like if a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old is like, you've never been there. I don't really, you know what I mean? He's not really bothered about seeing his father. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. No. But I do definitely believe you do need male role models in your life, and there is certain detriments that come with not having a father there. But it's definitely your choice.
But I would definitely have to query why an 8-year-old is saying they don't want to see their dad. Especially if, for instance, like if I'm looking from like a perspective of how I would kind of carry out that situation. If my child came to me and said they don't want to see daddy, I would query that, because especially you've obviously got to look at like obviously the roots of abuse and things like that. I would be cautious as to why I would actually investigate that, because it wouldn't be a thing where I would just say, well, you're 8. you don't have that choice, because I think you need to be very careful with, I understand why people do that, but I feel like also you need to be very careful of why that child might actually be saying those things. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think, again, it's just down to the situation. I wouldn't, as I said, not necessarily say no to my child seeing their dad, of course not. But there has to be reasons why, do you know what I mean, that situation might not be correct for me to then jump to the conclusion of them seeing them, and then going down maybe a court route would be the best thing in that scenario.